Okay, so the first thing we need to do is to set up our workspace. So I'm just going to open my terminal real quick, and I'm going to navigate to I'm just going to zoom in a bit here and clear everything here. So I'm going to cd into my documents, and I'm going to create a folder. In fact, I already have that. Let me just create a new one, and we're going to call this let's just say, first of all, let me just create a YouTube project. So you don't have to create a YouTube project. Okay, that's just for my personal preference. So this is where you now have to shine. So you create a folder, call it let's call it admin dash dashboard. I believe that should work for us. Okay, so that's all we need to do. So I'm just going to open up my favorite text editor, which is VS Code for me, and I'm just going to open that folder. So just go to my documents and YouTube projects, admin dashboard, open that up, and just maximize this. Okay, so for my browser, I'm going to be using any mini money mo. Alright, let's use Firefox. I guess that's where it ended up. So that should boot up quickly, and we have Firefox. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I believe once I create the index page, so I'm just going to create a index.html, and I should be able to open this up in my browser. So let's head over to documents, YouTube projects, admin dashboard, and I'll just open it up with Firefox. And yeah, so we have this right here. So I'm just gonna head back to the index page, and let's just create the basic skeleton. If that is gonna work for me, I believe yes. So we call this admin dashboard, and we're gonna install font awesome, but let's do that in the next lecture. So for now, I just want to get the basic scaffolding out of the way, then we can install any third-party packages next. That's in the next lecture. So I'm just going to set up my container, which I just love setting it up as a base. I guess it's convention to set up containers, and I'm going to set up my top nav. Okay, and that's just convention. Then we'll have another div here for the body. So over here we have one for the sidebar, and we have one for the, I believe we can call it main. Yeah, I guess main kind of sound nice. So I'm just going to type sidebar over here, and I'm going to type main layout over here, and over here we'll type in the top nav. So save that and reload, and you can see we have our structure right here, and we also have our admin dashboard as the title up here. Okay, so we can't style without CSS, so we create a folder called CSS, and we're going to call our style.css. Alright, so let's plug that in right now. So I believe what I love to do it above the title. So I don't know, it's just my convention. So anyhow you feel like doing it, it's fine. So we have that style, and to make sure everything is working, I'm just gonna perform the basic reset, which you should be able to do. Margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box. So if we look at it, we have some padding and margin all around. So once I save this and give this a refresh, so you can see our CSS is connected properly. So let's go back and start writing for our container, which is just going to contain just 3 lines of code, I believe. So just set the margin to 0 and the padding to 0. This is just personal preference because divs comes with their own margin and padding. So I just want to get that out of the way. So we give it a width of 100 view width. Yeah, that should be fine. And if we reload, we shouldn't see any difference. Okay, so what we need to do now is to um, so I believe we could set up let's see. So I'm just going to set up some CSS variables. So that's what I love to do. So we create our CSS variable over here called root. Sorry, in the root selector, because that's it has a higher precedence over the HTML selector. So it's best to put all your variables in the root selector. And if you don't know how to create variables, I'm going to show you that right now. So you create a CSS variable by using two hyphens. So once your variable, your name starts with two hyphen, then that is automatically a variable in CSS. So I'm gonna call this primary color. So I don't want to keep making that color here and there. So I'm just gonna call it, I'm gonna change the color later. So we just say primary color dark. So we just need the darker version, and we'll still go with blue. Okay, so now I'm just going to look for some nice blue. I don't think I can be able to picture these. Let's see. I believe this should be the lighter version, and let's see if we can just mimic the darker version. I believe around here should work. So now let's target our top nav. So we just say top nav, and we're gonna give it a font weight of, let's start with font weight of 300. If that is too thin, then we'll look at that later. Let's also give it a width of 100%, so the top nav takes the whole container, the width of the entire container, and a height of 50 pixels. And another thing, instead of using pixels, let's just come over to our HTML and set the font size to let's set it to 10 pixels, so we can be able to use that later. So for the height, we set it to 50 pixels, and the background color, so that's where that's gonna shine. So now, how do we now connect to this variable? So in order to do that in CSS, you use the keyword var, and from there you can be able to see that my text editor is able to highlight that this is actually a variable. Okay, so once we save this and give a refresh, so you can see what we have right here, and it's not the same in the sense, but I believe we have something similar. We were able to mimic something similar. Okay, so what we're going to do, we need our brand. So what we need to do is to set up the brand over here, and for our font awesome icons, we're going to do that later, but for now we're just going to set up the brand and the name of the user that's logged in. So that's just the two things we're going to set up in the markup. Then we're going to improve that once we've installed font awesome. So I'm going to set up two divs, one for the brand and one for the username. So for the brand, that's going to be I'm going to make it I just want to get rid of that gray something. So we're going to make it a h1, and we're going to call it admin dash, I believe, admin dash, or what was the name, angle. Yeah, let's set it, but I don't want it to be copyright, so I'm gonna set it to, instead of angle, I'm gonna set it to angel. Kind of makes sense though, I don't know, it makes sense to me. So we just go with a h3. I don't like having two h1 in the same level, even though they're in different divs, but I just love to set the specificity or hierarchy, if I'm to put it that way. So we have angel and we have John Doe. So we have these on top of each other like a stack. So how do we make it side by side? I believe you should know how to do this, and that's comes with the power of Flexbox. So we set display to flex, and that should set it up as a Flexbox, but you see they should be side by side right now. but still there's no space between them, and I think I've given that one away. So we say justify content space between, and let's just align them to the center. So align items center, and I believe that's all, but for the sake of just finishing up the navbar, let's make sure that this navbar is not, like when we scroll, we do not lose sight of our top bar. So it's always, available to the user. So if, no matter how much they scroll, our top nav should still be visible. Okay, so now let's do that. So what we need to do is just set the position to sticky. Now, if I believe every browser should support sticky, but if it doesn't support sticky, then what you need to do is just set it to fix, and you might need to just, if you set it to fix, you might need to add some margin bottom, so something like 20 pixels, just to give it some clear fix below, so the rest of the content don't jump towards the top. But I believe every browser should support sticky. So we go to sticky and we set the top to 0, and the z index to, I love to set it to 20, just to give it that higher value. Then if I just come over to this div, I'm just going to give it a class of panel, and I'm going to just target that panel right now and give it a height of let's just go with some really large numbers, let's say 2000 pixels. And once we save that, and did that, oh, I didn't reload. Yeah, so you can see as I scroll, my nav bar is still visible to the user. So you can see me scrolling right here. If you don't see me scrolling, then you can see that this text, once I start scrolling, is gone, and you can see it's underneath, and that's where the power of that z index comes to play. Alright, so before we end up this video, let's just finish these two right here, our Angel and John Doe. Alright, so let's give Angel a class of brand. So we just say brand. I believe brand should be a nice, I'm just gonna get rid of this one for now. So, and in fact get rid of everything, because I don't like my code yelling at me. Just get rid of everything. So let's create that brand, and maybe we'll give it a font size of 1.7 rem, which should be 17 pixels, because we've set the font size to 10. So 10 will be equal to 1 rem, because that's the reset that we've made up there. So that should be equal to 1 rem. So 1.7 rem will be 17 pixels. So let's also give it some padding. Let's say 1 rem to the top and 8 rem to the left and right. Then we give it a color. Oh, this is a normal color, so there's no need to set the variable for this, which is because just FFF, which can be typed really quickly. So we'll give it a font weight of let's say 600 pixels, sorry, 600, and we just transform the text to uppercase. I believe this should look good once we reload, and nice. Maybe just for the sake of making it look good, I'm just going to make the illusion that this is a a link that can be clicked. So we have that pointer illusion right there. Okay, cool. So all we need to do now is just set up the same thing for our bad boy over here, John Doe, which is going to be like the account. So what I'm going to do is let's see what will be nice here. Okay, let's make it, let's give it some nice styles, and I'm just gonna give it a name, a class of account. So that's just for the current user that's logged in, just whatever account seems appropriate. So let's just set account. We change the position to absolute, Will that change anything? Let's reload. Alright, let's get rid of that position. I guess it doesn't make sense to make it absolute. Let's reload. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so absolute didn't work. So what do you think will work? Alright, let's just set the margin. Let's start with the margin. Margin of let's see, I think a margin of let's see, well, guess 1 pixel to the top and 5 pixels to the left and right should be good. Let's give it a try. Yeah, there's not much space, so let's just increase this to 15. Yeah, that looks nice. Alright, let's give it a color of white. That should be FFF. And let's see, text align center. I don't think that doesn't do anything for me. Text align doesn't do anything for me. So what I'm going to do is I'll get rid of the text align because I guess it's already aligned the way it is. So maybe we just okay, so what I'm gonna do is let's get rid of the text align. And what do you think we should do? Let's change the text to, we've changed the text to white. Let's just save that and see how it looks. Alright, and let's increase the font size of let's say 1.4 em. That should be 14 pixels. Yeah, that looks good. Now let's say text transform to uppercase. Reload. Yeah, that's kind of much with the rem, so let's just reduce. Yeah, that looks good. Maybe we'll touch down on the white a bit. Yeah, so not too whitish like that, you know. Yeah, so now let's add some padding. Let's say we need padding 10 pixels, 20 pixels to the left and right. We won't see the effect of the padding unless we add the border. So let's go with a border of 1 pixel solid. No, not solid. Let's go with dashed because I want to add some hover effects right there. Let's make it white for now. Yeah, so you can see the cool thing going on there. So it's we have this. Let's just also add that illusion that this is a link that can be pointed to. So you can see we have that pointing effect right there. Alright, so I also don't want this to be clearly white, so we also touch down on the white because I want to add some hover effects later. So before we end this lecture, let's add that hover effect, and let's do that when we hover. But before we go on, let's just add that transition. So transition of all, let's say 0.2 seconds, and we need it to run in linear time. Okay, so now once we hover, what do we want to do? I want to make this rounded and I want it to be solid. Then I want it to have that maybe scale down a bit. Yeah, let's do that. So let's start with transform. Then we scale to, let's say, 0.9. Let's see if 0.9 is too much. Alright, 0.9 is fine, but it's kind of too fast. So let's just push it up a bit. Yeah. Okay, so for the final thing, we just need to add that border radius of let's just make it really high so it just rounds everything up. So 100 pixels should work fine. Let's reload and look at that. So we have that thing, so it's rounded, but now our border needs to change. So we say border 1 pixel. We could actually change the border style to solid. So instead of actually like changing the pixels and the color, we can just change just the style. So once we reload And look at that, look at that. So we have something really cool. All right, so if you want, you could play around with this, but I believe this looks nice for a top bar. I know we are not actually where we're supposed to be because we need to add the icons. So before we worry about the icon though, let's look at working on the sidebar. I believe that should be really important, as more important than adding the font. Awesome. Let's do that later. But in the next lecture, let's work on the sidebar. Yeah. All right, so that's gonna be it for this lecture. Before we end it, I just want to give you some considerations. You could also add that when you hover on this, you could also scale it down a bit or scale it up, and also you could reduce the size of the text once it scales down. So so that illusion is there of the text scaling down with the entire body. All right, so that's gonna be it for this lecture. Don't forget to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and let me know in the comments what you think could have been done better, than the way I went about things. Okay, so see you in the next one.